Okay, let's do a quick video that goes with my 2025 Black Friday Power Center document here. So first thing you need to know is that a watt hour is simply watts over time. So when you're comparing these guys, you really want higher watt hours, and if you take the cost of the unit divided by the watt hours, lower is better because you're getting more watt hours for less. So in this list, I would say the Bluetti Elite 100V2 at the very top, which is just a medium to smallish size unit that has AC outlets, is the best deal, even though this Go 300 is a little cheaper. It's a unknown quantity in terms of the brand, and with the Power Center you want it to work when you need it to, and you don't want it to catch fire or anything like that. So I would tend to go with the Bluetti, but I'm going to get the Go 300, and I'll explain why in just a second. Okay, so the Elite 30, which is the second down on the list, the reason it's more per watt hour, I believe, even though it's also on Black Friday deal, is just that there's economies of scale in getting a slightly bigger battery. So I kind of think the 100V2 is the sweet spot. But moving on down to the very bottom of the list, if you just want something super modest and you do not need to power AC devices, you just need DC USB ports, I think this Anker lantern thingy, which is an older model, I think it was a couple $100 when it came out, is still perfectly good. And you get a lantern and enough juice to charge a typical laptop and a phone a few times during a power outage. And I would say this is one up from what you might call a power bank, like a Mophie, because it really is a proper power center. It has an XTC port, that's this yellow port here, that allows you to plug in a solar panel to charge it up if you're in an extended outage. And this just happens to be a folding camping one that I put in this window here because it gets sun in the morning. It does not work. I don't think any of these are going to work well at all through glass or without direct sunlight. So I'll show how the camping lantern part works. You want to be sure to pull it up 2 notches, otherwise you're kind of wasting your power. Okay, so if I press this once, it just shows the display, which is the current charge level. If I press it twice, it goes to a dim setting if you're trying to save power, and it just tells you how much longer it's going to last. And then there's the brighter setting. So you can see that's decent distributed light, which if you're in an extended outage, you're going to appreciate that compared to just carrying a flashlight everywhere you need to go. So I have a couple of these so I can have one in the living room and maybe the bedroom or the bathroom or whatever in my small condominium here. So that's the Anker. The only other thing to say about it, I guess, is it has 2 of the USB-A older style ports and then 2 USB-C ports. And it's got a carrying strap. Okay. So let's move on to this Bluetti, which was at the top of my list. It's a bigger unit that also has AC power outlets. And we can see how this is hooked up. If we look at the side here, first of all, this is the input coming from AC. So for charging, this has a built-in transformer. It needs a big transformer, so it doesn't have a wall wart. And so that's just the input for charging the battery. And it also has an XTC in case you want to charge it with the solar panel, and you can actually do both at the same time, so it charges faster. And so we have 4 AC ports. We have 2 USB-C, 2 USB-A. We have these little mini connectors that are for 12-volt devices that don't have a barrel or cigarette lighter connector. And so if we press this power button, it lights up the display temporarily anyway, and we can see the input and output on the left and right, and they're both the same. And that's because, oh, I should say this is our output. It's going to the power strip behind the TV here. So input AC here, output AC here. So basically this is just acting as a pass-through with the total number of things plugged into my power strip drawing 147, and that's being passed through to the output of 100, input from here 147, output to here 147. And if we were to unplug this, what would happen? Well, listen, you'll hear something inside this unit here. I'll unplug from the wall. I don't know if you heard that click, but that's a relay. And I think it's 10 seconds, 10 milliseconds, a tenth of a second. It's how fast it switches over. So this just shows this thing can be used as a UPS or uninterrupted power supply. And that is good or bad depending on whether you want it to do that. The good thing about it is, if like me, I'll just show you what else on this power strip down here. So I've got this smart lamp. I have the modem from Spectrum, which actually uses a surprising amount of power. I have this Wi-Fi router. I have this 50-inch TV set, and this old Bose wave radio, which acts as the sound for this. And then I also have this little Google smart speaker. And we can see all of that together is taking 147 watts. So if this were an emergency situation, I'd probably, you're going to want to conserve power, so I'd probably turn this wave radio off and then just switch over to the TV's internal power. So you can see that dropped. Well, it didn't make a big difference. We're down from 147 to 142. But this is kind of fun for nerds just to figure out what your stuff is using. So maybe next I'd unplug this smart speaker, and as I got increasingly desperate, I'd probably just say, I just don't need to inefficiently power a big TV set through an AC plug from my battery, so I'd probably just switch over to my laptop, to watch the news or whatever. Or just as a quick bonus, I got this little TV set that has a rechargeable battery in it, and that would be a lot more efficient to use during a power outage. And by the way, I'll just show you. So I'm in the Tampa Bay area, and this is one of the over-the-air stations. If we go to the electronic program guide, we can see this is SCN TV, or Scientology TV, which there are a lot of Scientologists in Clearwater, and I guess that's where the station is. But you can see we could watch Meet a Scientologist at 1 p.m. So I'll have to mark my calendar for that one. And then while we're over here, I also got, on the general topic of power resiliency, I got this fan that's a camping fan that's also rechargeable, and it folds up into just like a little pie shaped thing, which is kind of nice, but it's quite substantial. And I think I got, right now it's saying it has 44% power left. I think that's after maybe one night. I think it goes for 3 or 4 nights for me before it runs out of power and has to be recharged. So, okay, what else should we cover? What have we not covered? So stop watching now if you don't care about minutia, but if you think about it, thinking about a true power emergency where you don't really know how long the power is going to be off and whether your battery's going to last the whole time, things that have wall warts like this Wi-Fi router and that Spectrum modem down there, those are inherently DC devices. And what's happening is the wall wart is converting AC from the power company into DC that the device needs. And so these electrical outlets on a battery, which is inherently DC, are inefficient, because at least particularly with devices that have a wall wart, because think about it, you're coming DC out of the battery and it goes through a thing called an inverter internally to convert that to AC. Then it goes over to, the power strip here and the wall warts. The wall warts convert it back to DC for the actual device. So you lose a lot of energy that way. And also just the inverter in here wastes energy in that transition. So any device that you can power, if you can get a cable that's the right adapter with the, like most of these things have barrel connectors, so you just want to check the voltage and polarity and see if you can either use one of these little DC outlets or even USB with some of these devices. Some of them even have a USB plug-in on their wall wart that you could just move over from the wall wart directly to the DC output here. Sorry about the noise, that's the airport next door. So I think the very last thing to cover is that the inverter, all of these things seem to be like this. It's not smart enough to know whether something's plugged in or not. So even if nothing is plugged in or turned on, the inverter is running and it saps a significant amount of energy. Like this thing could probably end up being empty after a week with nothing plugged into it. So as long as this AC inverter is turned on. So you can press this button to turn the inverter off. And so last bit of minutia, just for fun, I did buy, on that topic, I did buy this $107 or $108 Go 300. And what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to hook just my Wi-Fi router and my Spectrum modem up to that. And it also can act as a UPS. And the reason I'm going to do that is, what if the power goes off in the middle of the night and it's set up as a UPS where it's always in the circuit, like we have here. I really don't want my router and my modem using up my battery while I'm asleep. But I do like the idea of having a UPS to keep my devices from glitching when there's a brief power interruption. So I'm going to put the cheap little UPS Go 300 dude here on top, and I'll plug in those two devices, and if power goes off in the middle of the night and it exhausts its battery, no big deal, because then I can just plug everything into this guy. And then when I go to bed at night, I need to remember to turn off the inverter so I won't have any Wi-Fi at night, if that makes sense. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching.